Good day, everyone. We are here at Chabe Language Services Limited here in San Fernando, Trinidad and Tobago. I am your host, Tariq Andaltuni, a current university student studying Spanish and a minor in marketing. And we are here today with Andre, a man who has visited many countries from London to Paris to Bogota, Colombia. He is currently a bilingual professional, press and public affairs officer in the British High Commission in Trinidad and Tobago for over 2 years. Mr. Blackburn, welcome.
Thank you very much, Tariq. Nice to be here and to be on your platform. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for your time to come out and just share what you have learned so far throughout your career, throughout your experience, throughout your long time studying Spanish and just working towards your goals, right? So if you have any questions, we could start this interview. Good?
Yeah, awesome. So looking forward to hearing your first question.
No problem, sir. Yeah,
Yeah.
so we just really want to find and to just know more about you personally and what particularly motivated you to really pursue and study foreign languages.
Thank you very much. So I would like to call myself a professional in the field of international relations. So I specialize in politics, protocol, everything that is IR. Um, how I started off, well, Spanish for me was, I guess, compulsory, like as it was for everybody at the secondary school level. But I had some really great teachers, I think, that showed me that Spanish was more than a subject. You know, some of them were able to communicate fluently in Spanish, and that motivated me because I felt like I wanted to do the same. I saw that as a superpower. So it started off as a challenge for myself, and then just realizing how many doors um, speaking another language and particularly speaking Spanish opened. It just motivated me to continue all the way through university.
Okay, well that's very interesting, really and truly, because you're speaking about the persons who motivated the teachers and then really seeing the scope for the language field. Well, I really hearing that. And what you would say that what pushed you or where you saw potential to really study languages in a foreign country, let's say
Mhm.
Colombia, and to really make a name for yourself.
That is a great question, Tariq. Yeah, I would say a big part of that was, the amazing teachers that I experienced through my school years. Starting in secondary school. Miss Cunningham Joseph,
Mm,
who I saw speaking with a native Venezuelan speaker,
mm,
and I was blown away. I was like, oh my gosh, I want to do that. I want to be just like that. And then, of course, going on to A levels, I did Cape at Sixth Form Government Secondary School, also known as Polytech. And I met the most amazing teacher, may she rest in peace, Marilyn Sylvester. And what Marilyn Sylvester did, she taught the language from a space of culture, of having experienced the food, the culture, the language personally. So every topic we did, she had a personal story. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is way more than a subject. This is travel, this is people, this is music, this is the arts, this is culture. And our classes was so much fun. She used to bring music, Juan Luis Guerra,
mm.
and we'll be singing in class, but also sharpening our listening comprehension skills. And then of course, at the university level, I had amazing teachers and mentors, Diego Mideros, who was very passionate about teaching the language. He like many language students from Colombia, they actually studied pedagogy. So, it was just another level of teaching, and I was very inspired by his pedagogy, his way of teaching, and having mentors like Lancelot Cowie, Dr. Lancelot Cowie. He continued to rest in peace. We lost him recently.
Mm.
But he too was a master of Spanish and the language. His vocabulary was so expansive.
Mm,
And, just being around him, he wanted to be better. So I would say my teachers motivated me so much to study, to want to, experience Latin America and to pursue a career because they showed me through their own example that it was more than a subject. It was so much more than
mm.
learning a language from a textbook.
Oh, okay. Wow. Shout out to all those teachers in secondary school and university to really have a profound impact on you to really pursue languages, really and truly. And that's interesting because how you studied in Colombia. We would just like to know a little bit more about your internship there. Stemming away from Trinidad, going into foreign territories and really coming to speak with the Spanish speakers, really engage in a different side of the world. So we'd like to know
Yeah.
how was that experience for you?
That experience changed my life.
Mm,
It was the
mm,
first time being away from home for an extended period of time. I was practically living alone in a foreign country, one. Secondly, it was a huge realization that Spanish that you learned in a formal setting was very
yeah.
different from day-to-day Spanish.
Mm.
So, things like saying, Hola, ¿cómo estás? And then, people are like, "Cubo," and you're like, what? So you just saw a major difference between textbook Spanish, so to speak, and everyday life Spanish, and
Mm,
having to figure it out on your own as well. Going to the pharmacy when you're sick and not knowing the equivalent of Panadol, and having to figure out all of those things. And that is something that you only learn when you have immersed yourself in another country. There's no other way you
mm,
know. But I felt like Colombia um, also created friendships that lasted a lifetime. And I'm not being cliche. I have friends that I made in Colombia that we're still friends today. It's been the last time I was in Colombia, I think was in 2013, and so that was a very long time ago.
mm,
And we're still friends today, and we still keep in touch. And I feel like Bogota, Colombia, specifically, is my home away from home, and I
oh,
need to get that.
mm.
I need to get there
Yeah.
soon. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, interesting. Because you speaking about it, it was your home away from your home here in Trinidad. So it had similarities, I'm sure, and then there was a lot of differences, correct? So what you would personally say because you lived there for a good amount of time, what would you say were the differences living in the Caribbean than
Yeah.
Latin America and then Europe as well, being in London and Paris and these
Yeah.
places?
So I lived in Colombia for 2 years,
Mm,
not consecutively,
mm,
but I would say the differences is that, Colombia, and let's talk about Bogota
mm,
specifically. Bogota's population is about 9 million the
mm.
last time I checked. And so what that means is that, it's big city living,
Yeah.
so you feel almost like it's very different from the Caribbean where everybody knows each other.
Mm,
So that was a big change in terms of living in a big city. And Bogota, the weather could be 14 degrees Celsius, which for us Caribbean people is very cold,
mm,
right? And that changed the way how you dress, your diet, um, so those were some of the differences in terms of like the culture, the food of being in Latin America, but also in a big city.
mm,
But in the same way as well, there were similarities in the sense that it's very family oriented still.
mm,
Um, so as I told you, it was my home away from home, so we had like a bit of an adopted family in Bogota
mm,
who we used to, spend Christmas holidays with, Easter, that kind of thing. Family is big in the same way I think that we value family time and family life here
yeah.
in the Caribbean. Um, and I lived for just over a year in Europe. And I would say, Europe is very fast paced. If you felt invisible in Latin America. It's
mm,
you felt even more invisible in Europe just because of
mm,
the largeness, the expansiveness. But I feel like also being a Caribbean person in Europe, you are very special. You're unique. You bring something different to the table. And that was my experience, like finding space, finding community. I studied at Oxford University, and huge renowned university, but you find pockets. So there was the African and Caribbean Association,
mm.
who held events regularly, and you just found your pockets of community. um yeah, so I would say that the Caribbean, Latin
Mm,
America, and Europe are very different, but there are some similarities, especially between Latin America and the Caribbean, and particularly as it relates to family life, and also culture. Music
mm,
is a big, big, big thing, as you could imagine, in Colombia, and I have very fond memories of going dancing with my friends, you
mm.
know, um, in Colombia.
Okay, okay. You hear that, y'all? You have to learn differences between places, knowing that when you're in Latin America, it is family oriented, and then in Europe, you have a different style. So that's very good to hear as well. And when you were in those countries, because you had to communicate in a different language to your current one or to your native tongue, English. So what are some things that you develop over time to really hone in that skill of just talking to others, not only in a foreign language, but how you formulate sentences and how you structure things, being a teacher as well in the past.
Yeah. So I taught I for the 2 years that I was in Colombia, I was like an English language
Mm,
assistant. So I supported teachers who were
mm,
not native speakers, not native English speakers. I support them in, reinforcing activities, lessons, in the classroom.
mm,
And I think one of the major realizations for me teaching English was that I knew nothing about English. I kind of I discovered that being a native speaker, especially from the Caribbean, of English, doesn't make you an English teacher.
mm,
So I found myself having to, really spend time on learning the rules myself, and understanding the why. Why we
mm,
say things in a certain way, and why, sentences are like this, etc. So I felt like I became a better speaker of English, being because I was a teacher of English, so
mm,
w- it's it's one of those things, where you hone your own your own language, because you have to teach it and you have to explain it in a way that a non-native speaker would understand. Um,
mm.
so I would say that was one of the major lessons learned. But just in general, like especially being in Latin America, I was so impressed with the caliber of students at the university level. They were critical thinkers. They
Mm,
challenged norms. They challenged conventional ways of thinking.
mm,
They protested, and so that was something totally unique to me
mm,
as a Caribbean man. As somebody who was on campus for 3 years, and not having experienced most of that. Yeah, so I think those were two of the major like lessons. If I've answered your question,
yeah.
um, being teaching English, being in Latin America, that I walked away with.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. I really appreciate it to know that you had to have a sense of humility, really, being in a foreign land and thinking, okay, I am from Trinidad, so I could go out and be a teacher in a foreign country in my own native tongue. But is a really learning experience, and to just hear it from you being in a different country is, really pleasant to hear, really and truly. So we just want to say thank you once again, Andre, for coming out here to just giving us your, time, your expertise, intellect as well, and to just from your past experiences to just learn from you and to have a better understanding of how languages, and we just wish you all the best moving forward. Is there any words you would like to inspire the people with, not just with language, but in general?
Thank you very much for that, Tariq. I would say for me, I pursued something that I was passionate about.
Mm,
There are always, subjects or areas of study that
mm,
people think are sexy, on brand, or in trend. But for me, it was always about doing something that I was passionate about. And I was
mm,
glad that my parents gave me the space and the
mm,
flexibility and the support to do that. Um, because I feel like that makes a difference. That gives you the extra fuel when you have to,
mm.
pull all-nighters.
Yeah.
It gives you the extra fuel when things are not going great, because you're passionate about it. I would say follow your passion.
Mm,
And once you're passionate about it, everything else will fall into place. So I was happy to graduate from UWI with first class honors degree. I was happy to go on to do my master's in Latin American studies. So it's all aligned. And although I'm not directly in my field of Spanish, it's closely related. Like I am in the diplomatic space,
mm,
and you have diplomats from all over the world. So I'm always happy and proud to speak to them in Spanish, those who are from Latin America. Um,
mm,
yes, I would say pursue your passion first and foremost.
mm. Thank you very much for that. So, what I learned is, and everybody should learn this, follow your love and build community. That is great to hear because your family in Latin America, you have your family in Trinidad, diplomats, professionals. So, to just have a good circle is what it's all about. So, once again,
Thanks so much.
we thank you
Yes,
very much today, and we hope you all enjoyed this video here at Java Language Services Limited, providing quality translation and proofreading. And we just hope you all have a good day. Take care.